Welcome. We're back for episode two. I know this is much longer than I wanted it to be, but we're back for our Haunting Danielle episode two. The story continues. So, if you guys don't know what the premise of this series is, there is this book series that I have read up to like book 28, 27, something like that. I don't remember. But I am losing the plot to it, Like I'm just confused on the timeline. There are so many characters. Um, Everything is just a mess. So I'm mapping everything out. So I'm taking you guys along with this journey so that I read all 30 some of them books so that you don't have to. Um, Book, as I found out, like 36 was just released. So I think it's like books 37, if my numbers are correct in my head. The next book is releasing at the end of November. Okay, so like I said, I only read up to like 27, 28, something like that. But I've gone back to the beginning. And if you didn't watch the first video, I did the first three books. I was gonna do four books, but then it's turned into a very, very long video and it's like a feature-length film at this point. So we're now in book four. It's October, kind of perfect for this season. And we're gonna be going with The Ghost Who Wanted Revenge. Let me just get into the synopsis for you first. With his dying breath, Stoddard Gooserove names his killer Danielle Boatman. Danielle had a score to settle with Stoddard Gooserove, but murder him? Never. Proving to the police she is innocent is the least of her problems. She has an angry spirit to contend with, the ghost of Stoddard Gooserove, and he's out for revenge. So, I'm not all the way finished. I'm like this far into it. And honestly, like I said, this is a reread for me, but I knew the general overall plot. However, I don't remember who the murderer is. So this is like me rediscovering it. And some of these plot points I completely forgot about, and some of these characters I forgot about. So, but like as I've learned that sometimes book characters are brought up and then brought up several books later. I'm like, who is this person? So let's dive in to this one. We have our large map here. So I have this lovely, okay, we have our police department people over here because those get brought up several times. We have our side characters that have been mentioned, but we haven't really gone into much detail about them. So like we'll worry about that later, those people. And then we have all these people who are connected to like Marlowe House and have been like brought up, which I should probably mark on here. I did not. Oh, I did. He killed Sheriff who's in prison. So we don't gotta worry about him. He's in prison. And then we have these like ghosts over here that were mentioned that are attached to the Marlowe house. But then we have our neighbor over here who's Ian Bartley, and we have some, characters that are introduced through him. And then over here we have our lovely timeline. So we're like, it's September 24th. Well, 2014. It's 2014. It's not 24. But yeah, we're just following along. And it's this, and we're gonna put a little Sparta goes to wanted revenge. And put that off to the side. Yeah, but it's like September slash it doesn't really ever say, but it is September because I know book five takes place in October because it's talking about Halloween. So this kind of helps us pinpoint where we are in the timeline that we've kind of gone through like just pretty much the summer so far. We'll go back and we'll start talking about some of the characters in this book. What I have marked first is I have a blue tab, which is just indicating our death. So it's in chapter one already here. And what happens is our character, Stoddard Gooserove, is murdered. So let's do this little thing. Murdered in September 2014. Unknown killer, but he's murdered, but he names Danielle Boatman as his killer. And there is someone who is dressed as a woman who has Danielle's braid in her purse, or a similar purse at least, who says that he is going to pay for what he has done. And as a reminder, he kidnapped basically Danielle's friend Lily and was gonna hold her like hostage. And well, he was holding her hostage, not kind of. He was holding her hostage and was like gonna kill her. There's that. But then at the end of book chapter 2, I have a little green tab here which indicates a funny or important moment in our story, which is essentially when they go to arrest Danielle for Stoddard's murder because, I mean, he named her as his killer with his dying breath. Like, he literally says Danielle Boatman, and then he ceases to be alive anymore. So we skip forward a little bit. Danielle ends up getting released because, I mean, they don't really have proof. She makes bail and stuff, and they're still doing their investigation. But when she arrives home from the police station, there's a new spirit there, and it is the ghost, none other of Stoddard Gooserove. And he is pissed, rightfully so. He was murdered, and he is so mad about being killed. But however, there's a caveat. He cannot get inside of Marlowe House. He's just stuck on the exterior. And it's never really explained. He just can't get into the house. So he just like makes a menace of being outside and like banging on shit, Such a weirdo. But then we go ahead and because we're investigating Danielle for this murder, we meet a new character named Candace Holloway. And thanks to Ian, we'll just make this as a side character for now. When Danielle's arrested, Ian was out of town, but he gets a lawyer for Danny who's amazing. Danielle's new lawyer, because the other one is in jail for trying to murder her. What? He murdered, the cousin first. Why did it tell me I spelled that wrong? Whatever. Um, so yes. So Ian gets her this new defense lawyer. She's like one of the best ones in the state. She really doesn't get mentioned so much before this so far, besides the fact that, here is Danielle's attorney, blah blah blah. So then we have another important event here that basically Stoddard is haunting Danielle now. And word for word, he says, "It should be slow. I want you to suffer like you made me suffer, but 100 times worse." So he is intent on that Danielle killed him, and now he, and as a spirit, is going to kill Danielle. And he hasn't learned how to harness his energy, so he really isn't just doing anything but making a menace of like tormenting Danielle with like him yelling at her. Because I mean he tries to attack her. He like tried to jerk the wheel when Ian was driving her home from the police station, trying to kill him. But he hasn't learned how to harness his powers yet. And then we get a little nice piece of evidence because what they have on Danielle is that she was in the neighborhood of Stoddard's home where he was murdered around the same time as the murder would have occurred, and they saw a red Ford Flex, which is what she has, in that neighborhood at the time of the murder. And she was in the neighborhood, but she had gone actually to a house on a nearby street to look at an old piano, but the people who were selling the piano never showed up. However, we get an alibi for Danielle's whereabouts that say someone saw her at this other house at the time of the murder, and she was there for over an hour just outside waiting for these owners to come show her the piano that never showed. And our alibi is none other than Joe Morelli. He has an interest in Danielle, which is kind of brought up at like kind of a little bit of a history here. But after he tried to arrest her and stuff, that didn't really go well. But he does have an interest in Danny. Guess I could just write Danny because it's shorter. But she ain't going for it because like, bro, tried to have her arrested. And besides, why do you want to go with him when, he tried to have you arrested and all that, blah, blah, blah. And we don't like Joe. Joe's kind of a fucking asshole. Joe is for his way or no way, so we ain't about it. But he is our alibi for the murder, when the murder would have occurred, that it can't be Danny. So then I do have this marked on here as kind of a new character again, even though we've kind of mentioned it before. But we get to learn more about this other side character, Earthbound Spirits, which is a cult that was mentioned in the last book. That's Isabella, which is the niece of Stoddard Gooserove. That's how we kind of all got into this mess with him. She willed her estate to Earthbound Spirits. There was supposedly another change in the will of Isabella's that then left everything to her uncle. However, it's being kind of in court right now. Well, it's going to go to court over whether Earthbound Spears inherits the estate. She was an heiress, so she was very wealthy, or if Darlene, Stoddard's wife, current wife, will inherit both Isabella and Stoddard's estate because this is happening very close. Like Isabella just passed like in the summer and now it is late summer and Stoddard is passing as well. So we just learned about the cult and that they're kind of gonna do whatever they need to get these inheritances. I don't know what they're gonna do with all these houses that they're inheriting, but where we meet them in this book, they're inheriting this other property. I'm like, why do they need all these properties? Not explained, but whatever. But then we meet this other side character because, like I said, we got the characters galore, which is part of the reason I need this. But we meet this guy named Billy Bob Wayne, and I ain't shitting you, but that's his name. But he's a car salesman because yeah. But I want to put another note. Danny knows who he is because she saw him on TV for some Phoenix. I gotta say it like that so I can spell it right. Um, channels. When she would go visit a friend, she said in Phoenix, that's where she would learn. But it's just this guy named Billy Bob Wayne. He wants to rent a room at the Airbnb. So, there's that. Okay, but now we're gonna meet another character off of Stoddard, and it is Chuck. I did not mean to write that, guys. Christensen. And he is right hand man of the company that Stoddard has. What kind of company is it, guys? Don't ask. I don't really know what he does. But he's the right hand man. And that is what it is. We find out that Chuck is apparently the one who was really the mastermind behind all the business stuff. And that's pretty much it. And like Stoddard was just like the figurehead, but really it's Chuck who's running everything behind the scenes. So now we're actually going to get to a pink tab. I don't get to use a ton of those so far yet. But our little pink tab is our romance tabs, and Ian and Lily are still kind of dating, okay? But this one is we find out that Darlene, supposedly she is pregnant when this all occurs. Except for some people saw her out heavily drinking and smoking. It's like if she's pregnant, that's kind of maybe a little problematic. But we find out she was having an affair with Brian of the police department. And dude, apparently Brian's been married twice before and got divorced. But apparently Darlene's trying to get him wrapped around her finger again now that, Stoddard is dead. And she's like, so he's like trying to argue with her that like she doesn't really love him. She goes, I admit I didn't want to give up the security of Todd's money. It's what she calls Stoddard Todd. But it was you I loved. You I always loved. But for some reason, Brian is like so wrapped in like, against being against Danielle that he just like agrees that he's gonna help find whoever murdered Todd, which at this point they're very insistent that it is Danielle, even though we have an alibi. But Brian surrendered to the kiss without thought, his arms wrapped tightly around Darlene and pulled her closer. Like, stop. Stop. Will you help me, Brian? Will you see that Danielle Bowman is punished for what she did to Todd? And then we can always be together. Like, buddy, buddy, this is all kinds of problems. Okay, but I have another new character to introduce shortly after that because like they go to the funeral and Sutter does learn how to harness some of his powers and he ends up scratching Danielle, but he isn't able to do it again yet. But we meet this new character named Samantha, and she's just a nurse for Lily. Because remember, like Lily is very like injured after the whole episode of book 3 where she was kidnapped and held hostage and almost died. So she's recovering and she has these IV treatments she has to have, but she has them done at home because Danielle can afford a private nurse. And our new nurse's name is Samantha. We really don't know what her last name is, but it just seems off that this character just like suddenly arrived. And was like suddenly a new nurse. We have a little bit more of just some important plot points so far in this book. but we learn about kind of into a different POV that we don't know who is speaking, but it's clearly the mastermind behind the plot to kill Stoddard. And our new plan is because that plan is falling apart to frame Danielle. Our new plan is going to be that we need to kill both Joe and Danielle because the whole thing they're going to try to spin now is that Joe lied about his alibi for Danielle because he has a love interest in her. They decide to make this look believable. They need to kill Joe, frame Danielle for it because they're going to make it seem like Joe's going to recant his alibi for Danielle, and then Danielle is going to fall down the stairs and have an accident so that all of this is taken care of. And then I don't really know. We really don't know what the point is. Like, why are we trying to why did we murder Stoddard? Why are we trying to do all this? We don't really know yet, but that's like the whole plan. When we actually start to execute it, like they somehow steal Danielle's cell phone, call Joe on it, make it pretend that it's Danielle calling and that she wants Joe to come over so that they can talk. And then this is how they're gonna set up the whole like, oh, she murdered him and then had a tried action and fell down the stairs. I don't know what's up with people falling down the stairs in this, but like they tried to make Walt Marlowe 100 years ago look like he was dying, falling down the stairs. I don't know. And then they tried to like throw Danielle down the stairs earlier in the series. Like another person they tried to throw down the stairs. Like who knows what they're trying to do with these stairs? I feel like these stairs are very like dangerous. But anyways, Joe comes over and the whole scene unfolds where we have this new guy. We don't know who the hell he is, but he is in like the house and he's like, we're like he tries to murder them and it ends up this whole thing. And we end up learning that his name is like literally John Smith. And he does like I don't even call him he's a hitman, I guess. I guess is what we'll call him. He's a hitman. And he's trying to, have the stuff for the hit out on Joe and Danielle, and it's a whole mess. Either way, Walt intervenes per usual, slams him against the wall, and this guy is out for the count. And like he's in the hospital, and they still can't get him to wake up, and they're running all these tests on his brain. They're like, we don't know why he's not waking up. So yeah, that's really fun. Best part I have for what I've read up to again here so far, because we don't really know much other than that, is we just have a little more of a romance plot, which is like my favorite romance in the series. But Joe was obviously in the hospital too, because he was in the scuffle with the intruder, the hitman, and it kind of like they all got a little roughed up. So he's in the hospital, and Danny goes to like visit him and it's like, hey, thanks for trying to save me, blah blah blah. And then we all know it was freaking Walt. Let me just read this. This feels like it used to be after we first met. Daniel patted Joe's hand gently and pulled away. Yeah, I suppose it does in a way. I like you, Joe. I hope we can be friends. I was sort of hoping. We talked about this before, Joe. I'm not mad anymore, honest. I'm over it. I understand why you had to do certain things and how some things must have looked to you and while I'm no longer angry, we really can't go back, but I would like to go forward as friends. Are you seeing someone? Seeing someone, and then in italics, not unless you count midnight dances with a charming spirit seeing someone. And she's talking about Walt because Walt like dream hops into her dreams and he takes her on these like cute like pretty much dates in her dreams, but like it's because he can like control her dreams when he dream hops with a ghost. And oh my God, I just love Walt and Danny together so much. But he's a ghost. So that's really all I have so far. Just that we have some characters. We're kind of trying to figure out what the plot is with Stoddard, which is why we got this whole thing going off over here, which at this point we've kind of probably could have put like the ghost Sove people off into like a little group. So maybe I'll do that off camera so that you guys don't have to watch me move stuff around. But then just add more characters to that. Yeah, maybe that's what I'll do off camera. But yeah, that's kind of what we have going on so far. Okay, I'm back. I have finished the rest of the book, and it's like literally not even 24 hours later. So like that's pretty impressive for me. But we're gonna go ahead and pick up where we left off, which it's a good thing I remembered that we left off at the top of chapter 22. So, things be going on. It's getting ramped up. And they're still trying to figure out who has committed this murder, okay? We don't know. The phone goes missing, and there's this whole big debacle. What happens at the top of chapter 24 is they find a partial fingerprint on Danielle's phone. That's obviously not Danielle's, and it's not anyone who would normally come into contact with her phone. And it is the nurse. Okay, so we need to go back over to these side characters. I did do some rearranging for the estate down here because this is getting a little bit more complicated. So I did go ahead and adjust that a little bit. But okay, over here we have Samantha. She is one of the nurses for Lily. You know, she's taking care of her. And this is the person we find a partial fingerprint on it. And they want to question her, but guess what? This bitch goes MIA. We don't know anything about it. And she's just like, I can't be, part of this. And she like just disappears. And like, we don't question this question mark. Like, this is like, but that's fine. But we're gonna go back down here because look, we're getting more characters at this, and I have another character to add that we meet here. This is a part of this weird culty thing. So we're actually gonna delete the cult here, and the cult is gonna get its own little subdivision. Earthbound. Oh my God, why are you not tight? Let me set the book down. Earthbound Pirates. Oh, I'm spelling that wrong. Wait, what? My brain can't think. How you spelled this? How do you spell spirits, guys? Spear, spear, spirits. Okay, my brain. It's late, guys. Okay, it's actually only like 9 o'clock, but you get the point. Okay, let's move this where I wanted it, though. I don't like that this thing sometimes just decides where I get to put things. I want to put Earthbound Spirits over here because they fucking weird. So we know this is a cult, essentially, okay? And we learned a little bit more about this cult coming up. Basically, I'll just say it because it really doesn't ruin it. It's called Earthbound Spirits because it's this idea that we're all spirits bound on this plane, and this is just one stop before our next destination, and it's about donating to like charity, but whatever, it's quite weird. If you remember, Isabella, like, there's a will that says Isabella, like, gave part of her estate to Earthbound spirits, and there's one that says she didn't, and she left it to her uncle, Stoddard. That's it. Basically, we get this guy named Peter Morris. We really don't know much about him, but he's just part of it. And we also meet this guy named Cleve Montague. I don't know how to say this, but we meet these two guys and they're just like meeting Danielle, which is like kind of suspicious, because like what the hell do you guys want? But basically they're trying to decide, do they get part of Isabella's estate? Question mark. We don't know because they put one will into probate, but Stoddard put a different will into probate theoretically. But then they're trying to say that the will Stoddard is like forged, even though it was dated like the latest date. But it's like all contested. But again, we just meet these characters again, so they might come up again. See, we don't know. Again, this freaking thing gets wild. But they've decided, at this point, Joe and Danny were tried to be murdered. There was a hit on them. So we're back over here to this guy. We meet this guy named Bill. He's a contractor. We meet him at Pier Cafe originally. I also did add this character Carla because I'm pretty sure she's mentioned, but I don't know why I didn't have her on here. But like, I'm pretty sure she's mentioned before, but I could not find her name. So I just added that little thing. We've met Carla before. I'm like sure of it. Anyways, we're talking to Bill here. He's a contractor. He does a lot of jobs on rental properties in Frederickport. So he feels like he was replacing a bulb in another rental. He had some extra bulbs at a different rental, so he's like, "Oh, I'll just pick one up there and replace it later next time I'm at the hardware store." Because like the hardware store is across town and blah blah blah. And so he goes in there and he feels like he saw another red Ford Flex. And that's a huge thing, is that there was this debate that there was another Ford Flex in the neighborhood, but there's only one in Frederickport that's registered, and it's to Danny. So he feels like he just has seen one before. So he goes to this house that he borrowed the light bulb from, and what do you know? In the garage, there is a red Ford Flex that matches Danny's almost exactly. There is a paper plate on the back that matches Danny's, but in it, he finds a like almost like a wig, but it's like a part of a wig for like a braid and a ponytail, a red purse that matches Danielle's, and a ski mask, which the killer at the beginning, the killer of Stoddard, was wearing a ski mask. So we find out there's like this evidence in this house. And who is this house registered to, guys? Who owns this house? It's fucking Darlene. You know, go over here. Darlene, who is wife number three of Stoddart. But this is gonna start coming out. So Bill then calls the police because he's like, you guys need to come over here and look at this. Meanwhile, Darlene gets this mysterious phone call from this man that we do not know who is, that she needs to meet him up on this spot called Pilgrim's Point. Pilgrim's Point is basically a cliff. Okay, this is on Oregon. It's a very coasty area, you know. There's a cliff by the beach, you know. So, they need to meet up there, and she goes to meet this guy. We don't know who it is yet, but she's talking to this guy about what they're gonna do because at this point, I think we've all put it together in our heads that Darlene is the one who murdered her husband, and that she was pretending to be Danny, but she like murdered her husband. Um, but this guy, we don't know who it is, decides he is gonna take care of the problem because he's not gonna get caught for this murder, okay? Because he's not gonna get caught as an accomplice to this murder. He then proceeds to bash Darlene upside the head with a paperweight, and he checks for a pulse, and she doesn't have a pulse. So apparently she died instantly, like blunt force trauma. I don't know, man. But then, to make it worse, he then proceeds to push her body off the cliff, and it rolls down the cliff onto the beach. And then, because her phone is up there, because it was with her stuff, her purse is on the ground and her phone is on the ground. So he takes her phone, and who does she text? Who does he text on her phone? Brian Henderson, the police officer, and says, "Hey, I need you to come meet me up here. Meet me up here." And Brian is like, "Wow, this is kind of weird. Darlene has never ever texted me before when we had our affair over a year ago. She never once texted me. She only ever called." And he thought it was kind of weird, but he was like, okay. She was like, okay, because the text message was like, "I need you to meet me at Pilgrim's Point." So what happens? He goes to Pilgrim's Point, finds the dead body. And obviously he's the one, who found the dead body. And because they know at this point that Darlene had an affair with him, that they think it's him. Also, side note, Stoddard's will says if Darlene is ever unfaithful to him at any point during the marriage, she therefore forfeits it, and it all goes into this KS trust. Well, it was supposed to go to Isabella, but if Isabella is not available, obviously she's not. All of the estates is supposed to go to KS Trust. We don't know what KS Trust is, but it's brought up several times. But we're here back at the estate, and we're talking to this guy named, what do I have him on here? Oh, okay, Chuck. We got Chuck over here that we're talking to. But we met a new guy, and his name is Bart Paston. He's a manager for something in this company. Again, I don't really know what this company is. It doesn't ever really say what it is. But he's some kind of manager for the company. I don't know. We really don't know what the company is, to be honest, like what they do, what it is. It's some company. Oh, Nora, you so funny over there. She's like rolling around on her back with her toy. She's so funny. She's so funny, girl. That's so funny. Anyway, she's so funny. But we meet this guy, and we have this thing that the night before Darlene was murdered, she has this confrontation with none other than Brian, and it looked angry. So again, this sets up the motive for why Brian would have murdered her. So Brian's currently being held in prison, and the chief is like, "I think we both know Brian didn't do it. You didn't do the murder of Stoddart. Let's go talk." Because the chief of police knows that Danielle can see spirits. It's on the down low that he knows that, but like he knows that. So he's like, "Please, Danielle, come with me. Like, let's solve this." But meanwhile, before we find out, while they're like still investigating like what happened with Darlene, Marie, Adam Nichols' grandmother, the 90-year-old that used to live across the street. It's like the house Ian is renting is owned by Marie. Yeah. So Danny and Marie are out to lunch, and they're talking about who is Isabella's father. Because like, does Marie remember anything? Because like Marie is like 90 something years old. Does she like remember anything? And we find out that Isabella's mother, Karen, was married to someone named Billy, but we don't know who exactly he is. There's something that happened. It was all kind of covered up, but basically it comes out that she was married to this guy, and her father, Karen's father, made them get an annulment because he didn't want anything to do with them. This guy was poor. They're like wealthy, I guess. I mean, they own this huge company. but they get the marriage annulled, but then they find out that Karen is pregnant. So then they make Karen take some random last name to make it seem like she's not an unwed mother. And that's where we get the name Strickland. And Isabella never knew her father, never knew anything about it, but everyone kind of like knows like who's been around long enough that whoever Karen was married to is Isabella's actual father, just no one knows what happened to him. And then, okay, so then I would say, but then the chief goes and picks Danny up because Danny was over at the cemetery and she finds out that Billy Bob Wayne was visiting in Isabella's grave. And then that's how it comes out that Billy Bob Wayne is actually Isabella's father and he was the Billy, from years and years ago. And we find out that he says something like, Karen's not dead, even though Karen has a plot in the cemetery with like a death date on it. We find out that Karen's not dead and it's like not explained because then we have to jump over to the chief picking up Danny and they're going to go to the Goose Rob estate and see if they can find Darlene's spirit, which guess what? They do in fact find Darlene's spirit. And we're questioning her like, hey, girl, what happened? And she's like, it was Chuck Christensen. That bastard hit me upside the head because they were going to find out everything that happened and that we conspired to kill Stoddart. But then, okay, remember how I said Samantha, the nurse, went missing? We find her, and there's like really not much of a resolution. We found her, and she was just like paid to like steal Danielle's phone, and she like did it because they were blackmailing her because we find out that Samantha got fired from her previous job at a previous hospital because she was stealing pharmaceuticals. Sounds like a great nurse, but and it's just kind of like, okay, cool, we're done with that. But this has come full circle. We know who murdered Stoddart. It was Darlene. Darlene then gets murdered by Chuck Christensen. Christensen is now in prison, like in custody, as is Bart Haston for also conspiring. So they're both in prison. So we just know that this bastard, prison. This guy, prison. This girl, we know she's dead now. Pushed off a cliff. So we know that. But we ended off our book with a nice little pink note here. Because we get a little bit more of the romance. Because we are going to go back over to our main thing here. So Danny is asleep. She's resting soundly after we have solved all the murders in our town again. And it's just a little dream hopper. Walt hops into her dream and takes her on this beautiful romantic sailing trip. And that's how we end the book. So we have ended the book. We have all of our tabs. We're going to jump in to book 5 here probably tomorrow, which I have over here because I debated about starting it today. But this one is going to be perfect because it's the Halloween is on Friday, guys. And this is The Ghost of Halloween's Past. Because in that one, mentioned briefly in one paragraph, it's mentioned that there is another haunted house in Frederickport that everyone keeps talking about, and it's called Presley House because and it gets brought up because Danielle makes some side comment that they're going to turn Marlowe House into a haunted house for Halloween. We're going to dive into this one next. I think this one feels a little bit chonkier than that last one. It's not though. It's actually less. I don't know why it feels chonkier. I don't know, man. Damn, it feels a little bit chonkier. But we'll go ahead and we'll get this one started tomorrow, and we're going to meet some new characters. I already know it. Hi, I'm back with book 5 here for our next update. I meant to update this at 50%, however, I read the entire book and I had to obtain more green tabs again, because let me tell you, everything is being everything and everything is happening. I just actually started this one a little bit before Halloween, and yeah, I just finished it now in December, so like don't judge me. I set it down for Neck Alley November. So there's that. I want to share our little screen so we can get started. This one takes place right after Halloween. Or this one takes place right around Halloween. So it's happening. Halloween is occurring, and Danny and Lily are at Marlowe House trying to run this bed and breakfast. So let's go over here and update our little timeline first. Because we're now in October 2014. Ghost of Halloween past. So we're all still in the same year. Don't you worry. But let's go back over to what we got happening everywhere else on the map. I'm gonna be honest, this is the second time I've read this one, so I kind of know what's happening a little bit. But I will say, to begin with, we have a new character, and his name is Max. Max seems really creepy. He's watching people, okay? He's just like watching people. So we'll go over here and we'll add this new character, Max. We don't got a last name, we just got Max. So we got Max going for us. So then Max is just being his little creepy old self. Okay, next tab, next tab. Oh, they're on the same page. So our next tab, we meet another character. And we'll just put him over here. Harvey. We don't know who Harvey is either. Well, Harvey's there and he's yelling at some men in the house. And we hear a gunshot. So we know someone is being murdered right now. But we don't know too much about it, you know? They're just like, oh my gosh. It's some characters from over here. Bart Haston over here. And we know that Bart is shot. So he's no longer alive. He escaped prison and now he's shot. That's what happened. They escaped the prison. Him and Chuck. Well, they weren't actually in prison yet. They were supposed to surrender, but never surrendered. So you know they're like that thing. But then we disappear, and this is where we learn that Christian and Hassan have disappeared. They've escaped their prison. So they've escaped prison, which explains now why Bart got shot. But however, Christensen, aka Chuck, I don't know why we call him Christensen by his last name. We call Bart the other one, but you know, whatever. But we know they've escaped it. And then we meet another new character. We meet Bella. Bella's pretty cool. Bella's a cat, just so we know. Bella is a cat. She shows up at Marlowe House. Turns out it's for the new neighbor. Oh my god, I lost my spot. So yeah, Bella belongs to the new neighbor. She's pretty chill because she's a pretty cool cat. However, we meet this mysterious house over here called Presley House. I'm not going to add this in here because it's just a location in the map here, but um Presley House is claimed to be haunted. Obviously, Danielle's like, it probably is freaking haunted. Everyone else is like, weird things just happen there around Halloween, and only around Halloween that stuff goes down over there. But some kids break in, and Brian and Joe go over there to check it out as the police they are. And this mysterious light comes on, and they're like, oh, well, that's really weird. It must be defective. Even though it's like not plugged in, they're like, oh, it must be defective. So they bring it out of the house. Little do we know, we find out that Presley House actually has no power and it's been cut off months and months ago. And yeah, it's the ghost that's doing it. Because there's a ghost there. But now we meet another character, and her name is Heather Donovan. Heather, oh my gosh, Donovan. And she owns Bella. So yes, so we meet Heather Donovan, and she owns the cat. She lives a few doors down from Marlowe House. Just moved in. Just moved in. So then we're gonna go over where do I have Adam? We're talking about Adam next, guys. We gotta find Adam. Adam. Okay, so yeah, really I should put all these people like on a different one, but this will work yet. Adam has an assistant named Leslie. We just know that she's Adam's assistant. I don't know if that's gonna be important, so we're gonna write it down. This is where we find out then in our next tab that Presley House has no electricity, and actually nobody knows who the owner is because obviously the original owners have passed because it's like as old as Marlowe House, and they're not really sure who owns it because no one ever the owners never come to town to check on the house, you know? They just have like Adam board up the windows when it's like broken into because it's broken into repeatedly. The kids like to break into it. And then we're gonna go back to Max over here, little Max. Creepy little Max. And we find out a little bit about his past. Their first meeting included stolen kisses and false promises. They called her Victoria, and she told him he could live with her. But it would have to be their secret. No one could know. To prove his love, Max had killed for her. And looking back, that seemed to be what ultimately had ended their relationship. So, like I said, Max is really freaking creepy at this point. You know, we're like, oh, okay, Max.
And he's kind of set his sight on Danielle at this point where he's like, oh my God, she's so beautiful. I'm gonna live with her. She's mine. I'm like, okay, you weirdo. But then we're gonna go over next. Some more stuff happens, but we're gonna go find the police department. Okay, here we go. So we have Chief Edward. Well, I should have put his last name in there too, shouldn't I? Shouldn't I? Just so you guys know it. His last name is McDonald, by the way. Oh, not Donald's. And he is dating this woman named Carol Ann. I think that's how she spells Ann. Nope, it's just no, just ends no e's. He's dating Carol Ann. He's talking about how he's gonna go on this Hawaiian vacation. So we need to get this whole investigation with the missing prisoners wrapped up before he leaves for Hawaii. Can respect that. We're gonna go back to creepy little Max now. So Lily had left the front door wide open as she was going down to the sidewalk to say goodbye to Ian, and Max is lurking in the bushes, and he sneaks into the house. So Max ducks into the house and decides to be a little creep and go into the house. What could go wrong? This isn't creepy at all, guys. But then I had to put a little pink tab. We have some romantic interest. Like, oh my God, I ship Danny and Walt so hard. Yes, Walt is a ghost, but like, listen, guys, listen. Walt is like a dream guy right now. And I'll just read it to you. I suppose I understand why you did, considering how difficult things are now compared to when I was alive. And for the record, had I ever been fortunate enough to have had children, I would not have raised my hand to them either. They're talking about Walt and children. Like, if you would have had children. I would like to believe I would have found another way to teach my child instead of like beating them. I think you would have been a wonderful father, Danielle said in a soft voice. Walt turned to Danielle and smiled, and someday you'll be a wonderful mother. Wistful. So wistful for them to get together, but ugh. He's a ghost, come throws a wrench into our plan. So next we're gonna be back to Max. Danny's asleep. Max has made her way into her bedroom. Max decides to jump on her in the bed, like the creepy little gremlin that he is. And why I say creepy little gremlin is because this is where we find out Max is a fucking cat, guys. Okay, they made him see super creepy this entire time, and we find out Max is a cat. Actually, we're gonna delete him from this because after we find out Max is a cat, he now belongs to Danny. Okay, where's Danny? Plus sign. There we go. Max. And he's the cat. Max claimed Danielle. So that's where we find out Max is a cat. So everything about him killing for her, he just like killed a mouse and stuff, you know? So it's like actually not that weird and creepy. It just sounded weird and creepy for a while there, for a hot minute, like the first 70 pages of the book. Okay, we're gonna meet some weird side characters now. At this point, I feel like maybe I should make a Presley house little thing, you know, because this is gonna get complicated. So we have Harvey. We're also gonna have Brad Miller. Brad is local teen who breaks in. Okay, that's all we really know. We're also gonna meet Kevin. We'll put them over here together because he's also a local teen who breaks in. Okay, let's see, Kevin. Okay, and then we also meet, I don't know why Brad has a last name. We also meet Kurt. Again, Kurt is the same one, local teen who breaks in. One more teenager in this lovely group, Jeff. And also Jeff does the same thing. Local teen who breaks in. Because this is apparently the fun idea in this community is to break into the Presley house. But they're breaking in, okay? And they're gonna... Oh, it's because it's haunted. But either way, they're in the house and stuff starts happening because the ghost does not like shit going on in this house. And they find the dead body of Bart, okay? And then they run to the house screaming because obviously they found a dead body. That's kind of scary. So, they find the dead body, but then when the police get there, there's no dead body left. And they're like, bro, there's no dead body. However, they find a chest and like, oh yeah, there was definitely a dead body in there recently. So where did the dead body go? So now the police are trying to find out where the hell did this dead body go? Because they know a dead body's been in the house recently, but they just can't find the dead body now. However, Danny goes over to Presley House with the chief because the chief knows she sees ghosts, and he's like, "Yo, can you find out what the ghost is doing? Like, where did they put the body?" Because the chief is pretty sure the ghost is moving the body. This is where we found out Harvey is the ghost of Marlowe House. Okay, so he's the ghost, and he's like a teenager, and we're trying to find out what the hell happened. At this point, we don't know how Harvey really died, but he is a teenager, and he's like stuck at Presley House for some reason. However, the ghost doesn't want the chief to be there while he talks to Danny, so Danny goes back separately to go talk to Harvey. However, Brian catches her breaking in because Millie Samson from the museum, Miss Nosy Nosy, realizes that someone has broken into the house. And then the chief says to let Danny go, and um, Brian is gonna bring Danny back home, and she asks if this time if she can sit in the front of the squad car instead of the back because he technically did arrest her when he found her in the house. Here's the thing, she found the dead body, is what it is. They found the dead body, and then Danny gets this message from Harvey that he wants her to go to Pilgrim's Point. And up at Pilgrim's Point, she runs into Darlene, the ghost of Darlene, and she says, look over the edge. And there is a car down there at the edge of it that has been totaled. And inside that is Chuck Christensen, obviously dead. Where's Chuck at on this thing? Hey, there he is. He's also dead in a car crash. And so then Brian is like, "Do you have like a sensor for dead bodies? Like, why are you finding all these dead bodies? You found your cousin, you found these two. Like, girl, what are you doing?" But yeah, so we know the ghost's name is Harvey, but we're trying to figure out like why is Harvey there? Because Harvey is not a Presley. If we look up the ancestry of it, Harvey is not a Presley. So why is he haunting Presley House? However, they're talking about how Presley House, people are always trying to break in right around Halloween because of how haunted it is. And we find out every Halloween, Harvey comes in to Presley House. He appears there and he's looking for something. He's looking for something, he's looking for something, but he won't say what it is he's looking for. We're like, okay, but you should probably like tell people what you're looking for. But they already know that the house is probably going to be broken into again on Halloween. And they're trying to figure, like, we got to get this resolved before Harvey disappears again because he disappears on November 1st. Like, he's gone. But another little romance interlude here between Lily and Ian. I'll just read. So they're talking on the phone because Lily went to go find the flash drive Ian needed because he forgot it at home, but he's now in New York for a presentation, so now he needs this. So she's uploading it into the Dropbox for him, and it's just not sure I'll be able to call tomorrow. I'll be in meetings all day. No problem. After Lily got off the phone, oh no, up here a little bit. I'm sorry you had to do this late. No problem. I'm just tired. Emma is a sweetheart, but she can be exhausting. Yinlock, isn't that the truth? Okay, if you don't hear from me in 10 minutes, you'll know I got it. Thanks a lot. I love you. Love you too. Love you too. Stay safe in the big city. So we have this little romance developing between them. Um, but yeah, so at this point, Danny is taken back off to go to Presley House, not telling anyone. The chief is currently in Hawaii. She forgot her phone at this point too, we find out. And she is now trapped in the secret basement of Presley House. There's like a secret door that goes down to a different part of a basement. And she is stuck because Harvey has trapped her because she's going to help him look for whatever it is that he's looking for. And Walt is just standing in Marlowe House. He's like, Danny's gone, but Lily hasn't come back over, so he can't talk to Lily. So she eventually does come home at like 3 in the morning from Ian's, because she fell asleep over at Ian's. And they're like, Walt, like, she's gone. So in the meantime, we find out what Danny's been doing. Danny is stuck in this basement. We find out she was injured and hit her head because when Harvey told her to go into the secret room to help like him look, he's like, let me show you. She goes into the secret room and he slams the door and locks it without telling her it's pitch black that there's a set of stairs, so she falls down the stairs, hurts her ankle and hits her head. So she's in this secret basement now, and Harvey is like, she's like, dude, I'll help you look, but what am I looking for? And that's when he reveals we're looking for a journal and something else, but we'll know what the other thing is once you find the journal. They're together, but with like no explanation. Okay, where did I put Presley House? Okay, here. This is where. So Presley House has this lovely little secret room, and we find out we have what's his name? Bruce. Bruce Presley is one of the twins of the person who owned Presley House back in the day, like when it was still inhabited. Um, and we're looking for Bruce's journal because apparently something happened with Bruce, and we know Bruce wrote something in a journal that Harvey needs, but we're like not really an explanation. But we also find out at this point that it is believed that Harvey was killed by his drunk of an uncle, and then his uncle unalived himself. But they're stuck down there, and Lily decides, I'm gonna go look for Danny at Presley house. And Lily decides, I'm gonna call Marie, and if I don't call Marie back by a certain time, Marie will call the police and tell them we're at Presley house to come find us because something happened. And who picks up the phone at the police station because Lily doesn't call Marie. So we're at the police station now, and she's calling in, be like, "Hey, I need whoever's filling in for McDonald, which happens to be Joe, to go check out. It's Danny. She's at Presley House with Lily, and Marsha's a fucking idiot. Okay, like Marsha is just an absolute idiot. Also, I would just like to point out, um, this says you can't file a missing persons report until 24. That's a very common belief, but it is completely untrue. You can file a missing persons report at any time. Do not let the police gaslight you like they do Lily here, because Lily wanted to file a missing persons report for Danny, and Joe would not let her because it hasn't been 24 hours. Stupid. However, Brian, who's been a dick this entire time, has decided I'm gonna go talk to Lily myself and find out what's going on, like with Danny missing, because Lily's worried, and he's gonna take the initiative behind Joe's back to go do some investigation. He goes over to Presley House and he cannot find Danny. Cannot find Danny whatsoever. He's like, she's not there. I don't know where she is, but she's not at Presley House. So again, Lily had called in and cannot find either of them at this point. But then we get this weird little flashback at Presley House because Harvey is explaining himself finally. 220 pages into the book, mind you. He's finally explaining himself. So, they're exploring, and we have the other twins' name now. I don't know why the hell they ever named their child Barney, but they did. So, Harvey was the friend of Barney and Bruce. Really had to think. I was like, what the hell is the other guy's name? It's right in front of my face. So, Harvey is their friend, and they were exploring the secret room in Presley House. The owner of Presley House, the twins' father, used to work for the Thorndikes, Eva Thorndike's family. And he left town and then he came back and suddenly had all this money. And it was believed he was doing moonshining. So the boys are showing Harvey the secret room in the basement with the moonshining because this was during Prohibition. And they are showing him this room. So we meet Barney and they're looking in, they find stuff. And suddenly Mr. Presley himself comes down and he is livid the boys are down there. And he knows Harvey wants in on this, but he doesn't want to share any of the moonshining money with Harvey. So Mr. Presley proceeds to beat the living daylights out of Harvey, like unalive him, beat the living daylights out of him. So we quite literally do that. So this is where we find out Harvey was not unalived by his uncle. He was unalived by Mr. Presley, and then Mr. Presley made the twins, Bruce and Barney, take their friend's body and help hide it in the ocean. And then the next thing Harvey knew after he was beat to death, he knows he was at the cemetery and there is a Clara. I don't know if these are important people, but again, we meet these random people. We meet Clara Bennett and we meet Miss Frances. There's really not an explanation of how these people really tie into anything other than that they were looking at Harvey's grave and they're trying to like justify that the uncle like killed himself, like killed Harvey and then unalived himself. It's weird. So we're back to Joe and Brian and the secret room. They're like, why do they think there's a secret room in the house that we need to find? Why do they think that? Why do they think that? So they're debating about do we go back over there, but then they find out way, way back. Danny was in a bathroom at a restaurant and she dropped her purse and all of her cards spilled out. I don't know how the hell she did that, but all of her cards spilled out. And she apparently missed one and someone stole one of her cards and now someone used it like a few mile, like not a few, but like in Washington or Oregon area, used one of her credit cards at a motel. So Joe's gonna go investigate that instead because he's like clearly she's using her credit card, but she wasn't. And again, they're like, oh my gosh, why can't we find these girls? They're missing yet. However, then we meet another character. So they're off chasing this fraud credit card thing, which good for them. We do need to get that resolved because someone shouldn't be using Danielle's card. But we know Danny's stuck in the damn basement. We meet this Sean Kelly at Presley House now. He's another local teen who's broken in. And it is Halloween night, and Danny is missing. She's been missing for over 24 hours at this point. It's probably closer to 48. She's been gone. So what happens is they want Sean to stay the night at Presley House so he can be included in the Hellraisers group, whatever the hell that means. Apparently it's some little local cult thingy the boys are doing, okay? And so Sean is in the house and they leave him upstairs with a box of matches. He finds a candle. He puts a candle inside of a broken beer bottle to help like hold it up, and then he hears a noise, so he goes to investigate. So he's down investigating and he sees some furniture levitating. So he bolts. Mind you, he left the candle burning upstairs in this weird beer bottle holder. It topples over and it does not go out, guys. It starts the room on fire. And now Presley House is burning with Danny and Lily stuck in the basement. Heather Donovan, though we haven't talked too much, we just know she's a little eccentric, a little weird. She's really into essential oils. Is coming and down the street, and she's going to Presley House. Come to find out, Heather is the new owner of Presley House, and she has come to tell the story of what happened, Harvey's story, because she has found the journal, Bruce's journal, where it says what happens, how Mr. Presley killed Harvey and made the twins help cover it up. And then we find out they also murdered Harvey's uncle and framed it to look like a suicide so that it would all tie together, no one would look at them. And then along with the journal, we find the other thing Harvey was talking about. They do escape. Heather lets them out. Heather helps them escape, and Joe and Brian arrive just as they're walking out of the building engulfed in flames. Danny is admitted to the hospital because she's injured, has a concussion, and was inhaling smoke at this point. What was with the journal was this little pouch, and in the pouch there is a lovely emerald. Turns out Mr. Presley was a part of the original scheme with Eva Thorndyke's husband to steal the missing Thorndyke and replace all the stones. So the real emerald has been back, and Heather is returning it. She goes, I have to return it to make things right. So there's that. And one little last thing on our last page here to end it out, a little romance here. Danny is in the hospital, and Walt comes to Dreamhopper to talk about, like, oh my God, I'm so worried. I'm so glad you're okay. And he's like, I'll let you sleep. And she's like, no, Walt, stay. So here, I'll read it. Wait, Danny looked into Walt's eyes. What? Don't go yet. Okay, we can just sit here quietly if you want. Do you think? Danny looked down. Do I think what? Walt asked with his voice gentle. Danny looked back up at Walt. Would it be possible? Could you just hold me? I need someone to hold me. And then italics in her thoughts. I need you to hold me. Without another word, Walt gathered Danny into his arms. He held her as they looked out to the ocean and watched the sea make its way toward them and then retreat in a steady and constant rhythm. And my cat's a psycho because she just is running around like psycho. But that's what we have. So we figured out the mystery of Presley House. Harvey has disappeared again because, it is now November 1st. But hopefully everything is resolved with Harvey and he doesn't come back because now we told his true story. Hopefully. But that's what we got so far. So the next one we'll jump into, it's Christmas. It's the Ghost Who Came for Christmas. I had to think. I was like, it's a different one. It's the Ghost Who Came for Christmas next. So we'll see where that goes.
Ma'am, of course, I'm just getting ready to start, and you's over here itching up a damn storm. Ellie is here. Are you gonna come say hello or at least or something? Want to come say hello, say hi, hello, shaking everything. Cause why not? Cause I's Ellie. But we're here. Oh, okay, damn, okay. For our third installment, the Ghost Who Came for Christmas. So this is book 6. I meant to read this in December. I'm so behind. It's January. It's fine, guys. It's fine. I really wanted to have this up for you guys in 2025, but that didn't happen. But I am officially at page 126, which is the end of chapter 20. And as normal, there are 40 chapters in this bad boy. So let's pick up with our little synopsis so we know where we are. It's a few months after not a few months. It's like a few weeks after the event of our last one. It's Christmas time at Marlowe, house, bed, and breakfast, and Danielle has a full house when a woman stranded far from home shows up on her doorstep and begs for a room for the night. How can Danielle tell her the inn is full and turn her away? After all, it's almost Christmas. Let's just say, let's just put the, oh God, what's that word? Analogy? Oh my gosh, Eleanor, it's been so long since I've been in any look. You guys know what I'm talking about. The woman makes quite an impression on the other guests, especially when she mysteriously disappears. Is it foul play or something supernatural? So as you can see, I have my tabs for the first half of the book here. Very different from our other ones. As you can tell, there are no blue or purple tabs thus far, or no pink ones. And just as a reminder, orange are our new characters, green are important plot points or something I find hysterical. Pink is going to be any love things like love interest, romantic interest type stuff going on. Blue is going to be when there is a death somewhere in the book, and purple is when we are introduced to a new ghost. So as you can see, we're already halfway through, and I have none of that. All I have is characters and plot points. So we will go ahead and dive into this on my first page here. So I have started here with our normal Marlowe house because this is going to be our main setting for this one. So, of course, we will have our side characters, which I believe I have right over here, which is where we will put in some of these characters we are starting with. So, first off, we are starting off with this man named Chris. We don't know much about Chris. We know we start out with him and he is on a boat, and for some reason, he lived on this boat, and we are headed elsewhere. Shelby Joe is making a mess with the water, per usual. Anyways, Chris lives on this boat. We don't really know why Chris lives on the boat. Chris lives on the boat for some reason, but he has to leave said boat because the boat has been sold. And we meet this other guy named Ken Palmer, and he's just like, I guess, a friend of Chris? I really don't know. He's just like there. He's like asking if they're all packed up. I I don't know. That's really all we get about from Chris. Like Chris exists. And then we also meet this other person. Well, we don't really meet them. We hear mention of this other character named Bridget. Gotta make sure I spelled that right. Must be like a romantic interest of Chris's previously. Simply because we don't meet her and she's just like mentioned, and he says Bridget is practically jailbait. So I'm guessing we're not pursuing that. But you know, it's not the beginning of one of these books if we get to chapter 2 and we're still going over new characters. We're over here talking about Clarence Renton with, I think we have somewhere on here. He has to be somewhere. Yes, Clarence Renton. I guess we can add his first name to this. Clarence. And if we remember now, he is actually deceased. Actually, is this where we find out? Nope, this is where we find out. So he has deceased and they claim it's by him unaliving himself. I guess how do I want to word this? He's dead, I guess. We'll just put that way. Okay. We find out Clarence Renton is dead. He died in prison. He unalived himself. It is appears to involve some sheets and some tying of said sheets. So I'm not gonna get into all the the nitty-gritty details. But Clarence is dead. Oh, Clarence is dead, and we're talking about Peter Morris, which I'm pretty sure we have Peter Morris over somewhere. Peter Morris. This is where we find out that Clarence Renton was also involved with this, so I'm kind of inclined to move Peter. I don't know if I can necessarily. Does it let me move? I don't think so. So we'll just go ahead and I'm just gonna add Clarence Renton over here. Okay, so I've moved some stuff around so that Clarence is now over here with Earthbound Spirits because that is who he is affiliated with, we find out, and I've moved some of the stuff. I moved another character, Gloria Cummings, over here from book 1 because like we haven't really heard mention of her since then, so I'm just gonna leave her in our side characters at the time being. Also, Heather is briefly mentioned in these first few chapters. However, she is off on like a vacation right now, off visiting family for the holidays. So we will not hear too much from Heather Donovan in this one, at least for now. Cleve, Montague and Peter Morse are talking about the death of Clarence Renton, and they mention another man in the organization named Richard Winston. And we don't know too much about Richard Winston except for, he is obviously a part of Earthbound Spirits. Peter and Cleve are talking about him, so we hear all about that. But we hear now at this point, they are talking about wanting to do some recruiting, as in Earthbound Spirits wants to do some recruiting, because obviously how else do they fund this cult organization? And they are going to focus in on our lovely Danielle Bowman. So they're talking about how wealthy of a woman she is. And obviously to keep this cult going, you need some money. So they're going to target trying to get Danny to join said cult because they need some more money coming in. Now I am gonna add another character. Like, oh my God, we're getting so many characters. I feel like we need to shorten some of these ones that aren't mentioned a ton. I haven't mentioned him, haven't really mentioned him. He's over in prison. I feel like that solves that. I haven't heard much from her. Haven't heard much from Susan. We don't hear too much about Samantha anymore. He's kind of disappeared at this point. I want to leave these two out just because, um, so far from what I've read, Chris does play a rather large part in here, so I do want him out of that. And we are going to meet another character named Patricia Morgan, and um, she does have a daughter named Jessica. They're always together, so I'm just gonna tag them into one little group because like they really don't separate too often so far. But we find out they have won this contest, drawing, whatever you want to say, to have a Christmas vacation at Marlowe Bed and Breakfast. And Danny is going to be hosting like an old-timey festive Christmas just for anyone who wants to participate in that. That is actually where Chris is headed. And obviously, Patricia and her daughter Jessica have just also won tickets. And Richard Winston, that is brought up, is also going to be there as one of the guests. And reminder at this point, Danny has her own bedroom, and Lily also has her own bedroom as she is also living at the house. Okay, and then we're gonna go back. This is where I had to go back and like look. This is like the first time I had to like find a character. I'm like, is this character already mentioned when I was reading the book? So we have mention of a John Smith. This is the hitman that was part of the Gusarov estate scandal back in book 4. I know, like, I should remember that that's in this video, but, like, I did not. But either way, Joe is bringing Danny her phone, and this, I mean, Joe is interested, Danny's not, so I didn't mark it as, like, a romantic thing in here. But Joe is casually just bringing back Danny her old iPhone, which she does not need anymore because she went and purchased a new one. And they just kind of wanted to talk about it. So her and, like, Walt are kind of talking about, oh, that's how so convenient that he like wanted to bring that to you. Then we have this lovely plot development with Chris. Chris is now at Marlowe House. He has checked in, and Chris can see Ghost. He can see Walt. He has not acknowledged Walt. Hello, Shelby. You never come into a video. He's not really acknowledged Walt, but because we're in a third person point of view, we can tell that Chris can see Walt. Walt is unaware that Chris can see him, and Danny is also not aware of Chris's ability. But it does get brought up several times that Chris can see Walt, and sometimes he does try to antagonize him by saying stuff about Walt, like when you saw the portrait in the library and stuff. We won't get too much into that. So then we get into what is mentioned on the back cover. We meet Anna Williams, and she kind of just like straight up low-key just like appears at the door and is like, I need a room. And Danny's like, I literally don't have any rooms available. Like, what do you want me to do, homegirl? And she like is begging, like she can't be alone for Christmas. And I mean, technically they have the attic and there's a pull-out couch out there, so it's not typically a guest room, but Danny makes it work. And I think this is really like, supposed to symbolize like I don't know, Mary and Joseph showing up on Christmas and all the ends being full and them getting like the stable. But we find out when Anna, I wanted to say Annie, like freaking Annie from Misery, so Stephen King. Anyways, Anna apparently knows Chris. We're not sure quite how they know each other. Chris is talking to Anna, and Chris tells Anna like he's gonna come back any minute in reference to Walt. So we don't really know what Chris and Anna are doing, but Anna is aware that Chris can see spirits. Chris mentions that it's very obvious to him that Danny can also see the spirits, and obviously Danny just doesn't tell anyone. So here's where we do officially meet Richard Winston, and he is also checking in into the bed and breakfast. Not much goes on except for that Anna is like a complete like nut job at this point, is like kind of concerning. I mean, no, there's really much to do, but like she's like kind of weird. So then we find out more about Patricia and Jessica showing up, and that someone just put their name in. They have no clue who this is. Benevolent Charities is the one they win something from. So I am going to add that just because it is brought up a few times that we don't actually know what this is, but this is the entity that um gives them the vacation. Like I said, we don't really know too much about this. No. So this one, it does go quite a while without me having to mark anything, but they're just doing like normal Christmas activities. They're like decorating cookies, they're doing decorating like a tree and stuff. So there's really not much going on at the current moment. However, Richard kind of shows an interest in talking to Patricia slash Jessica. I mean, his mission there is to talk to Danny to try to convince her to join Earthbound Spirits, but he is more geared toward hanging out with like Patricia and kind of finding out more about her right now, which is kind of an odd development, but not really explained. However, we do find out information about Richard, and we find out that Richard's parents are deceased. Actually, everyone at the Marlowe house who is staying there right now, with the exception of Lily, has parents who are no longer with them. Obviously, we know about Danny's parents. Chris's parents are no longer with him as either. Patricia's parents are gone, as is Jessica's father. And we find out Patricia's parents passed away when she was quite young. Her father passed away when she was younger than her daughter is currently. And then her mother passed away when she was about 10 from cancer. So Patricia has been on her own for a while, and we don't exactly know what happened to Jessica's dad, but he is not in the picture. And this is where we find out Anna, we know that she has no family, kind of weird, but like we know she has no one to go with. And then Richard, we find out that his parents passed away a few years prior. However, interesting thing, Danny and Lily are doing some sleuthing, and they find out that Richard's parents, they find out his dad's name is Richard and his mother's name is Rachel, and that they had the son, the says their only son died when he was 6. Here's the thing though. Richard is not a 6-year-old man or like a 6-year-old child. He is a full-grown man. So what exactly is hiding? Is this actually Richard Winston, or what kind of family scandal are we trying to uncover? And then we are having this open house for Marlowe House. It is going to be like this grand open house event for Christmas Eve that Danny is hosting. And Peter Morris shows up and he is very upset with Richard because he has not convinced Danny to join their organization. There's just like he's like, I had to like gate crash the Christmas Eve open house because you didn't invite me, Richard. And that's kind of where we've left off for like our halfway point. So we will see what happens. Like I said, we haven't had our guest disappear, but it has to happen in this latter half of the book. So also, like I said, very weird that we don't have like any purple or blue tabs happening yet because we are now halfway through the book. But I wanted to get my update done before I had to like make like a 2-hour update. So we'll see what happens in the second half. Much has happened in the second half of this book. I think we have more tabs now than we did before. And look, we have all the colors. We have orange and green and blue and purple and pink. Like very end of the book where I had to add some pink. And I was like, you know what? Romantic subplot finally. So let's go to our next point. So we were leaving off, or they were just having some good old Christmas activities. And Max is in the attic. You know, he was not supposed to be in the attic, but Max is a cat. And Max is gonna do what cats do, okay? You know, he's a cat. You know, you try telling your cat how to do things. I can try telling my cat how to do things. Guess what? She pretends she doesn't know her name half the time, so Max is doing Max things. And he climbs inside of Anna's suitcase that's in the middle of the sofa bed, completely empty. Odd, right? But anyways, Max decides he's gonna take a nap in there, and apparently nobody comes looking for Max, which is fair, because sometimes I don't look for my cat for a while either, because like I just assume she's probably like under my bed, you know? Like this is probably just where Shelby lives. That's like where she dwells. Then we're all reminiscing about our good old Christmas times, and everyone is just sharing. Apparently everyone has lost their parents. Like all the adults have lost. Danny's lost her parents. We found out Richard has lost his parents. We find out Chris has lost his parents. Patricia doesn't have her parents. Anna, we don't know where her parents are. we also find out they're both adopted and that their parents were all in the same boat because they were on their adoption attorney's boat. Weird that they were all like they were both adopted and like they had like no really real big connection prior to this. I mean like they attended each other's like parents' funerals, but like besides that they had like no contact 'cause like why would they? You know, that'd be like weird. But then we gotta meet a new character, so let me share my screen so we can get back into this. Unit. Oh, at the bottom. Here we go. Share. Shit, that's not how I wanted to share it. Haha, here's how I wanted to share it with you guys. Patricia over here. We'll find out that Patricia's brother, long lost brother, they were separated because Patricia never got adopted. She was just in foster care because her parents passed away. Uh, but her and her brother got separated, and he was younger than her. He's about 6 when this happened. She's a few years older. But we found out his name is Robert James, also known as Bobby. Not with a capital Y. Why would we do that? Actually, the not much. And this is her brother. Sorry, I don't know why I said it with that way, but we're gonna roll with it. And we find out that Robert James, aka Bobby, his birthday is Christmas Eve. Do you know when Richard's birthday is, guys? Christmas Eve, but we're not gonna to comment on that right now. We just ignore that part. But Richard doesn't want to tell anyone that his birthday is then, you know? We wake up. It's the day after Christmas. It's December 26th, guys. Anna's gone. MIA. Gone. No one can find her. No one. No one at all. We don't know where the fuck she is. Here's where we find some complicated things. Last night, Danny saw Richard coming down from the attic where Anna's room was. Lily, however, saw Chris coming down from the attic. Neither are sure what time each of this happened because they never looked, but it was after everyone had gone to bed. Let me tell you that. So weird, mysterious, strange. So, naturally, Anna's missing. They are searching the house, like, maybe we just, like, missed her, you know? Because it's, like, hardcore storming outside, like, hardcore storming. Like, no, you don't want to be out in this. So, Danny goes up to the attic. She's like, I'm just gonna, like, look to see if Patricia's up here. They find blood on the freaking rug. Yep. Yep. There's blood on the rug. On the rug. So that's suspicious. But they don't want to alarm anyone. So, Danny has Walt hide said rug so that they don't go, wow, look at that blood on the rug. That's suspicious. Because like we don't really know. However, because they can't find Anna, Danny calls the police. And who shows up? Our good homeboys, Joe and Brian. Where's the police department? Here they are. Joe and Brian show up because apparently we only have 3 police officers, I guess, in this entire town. I don't know. These are the only ones we hear about. We only have 3. Okay. And they all work all at the same time. I don't know. No one works night shift, I guess. I don't know. Joe and Brian then have to do their own investigation of the house because it's Joe and Brian, okay? They got to do their own investigation. They're in the attic because, that's Anna's room. They're looking for clues, and Walt hid the rug in the top drawer of dresser. And Walt's like, oh no, not that one. That's where I hid the blood, you know? So he makes it stick. But then he gets distracted by something outside the window in the storm, and the drawer opens. And Joe and Brian find said blood. No, no, not suspicious at all, guys. Not suspicious. Why would we be suspicious? So now they've taken the rug away because, like, okay, you guys have a missing guest and now there's blood involved. So, suspicious. But we're gonna head back over here to some more characters. Chris, we know what his last name is. So he's been telling us his last name is Johnson. But he's been going by that's his mother's maiden name, guys. He's also adopted. Did I say that? He's also adopted. So he's been going by his mother's maiden name. That's not his actual name. His last name is actually Glandon. Chris Glandon. So we just find out that homeboy over here just lying about who he is. So now he's suspicious because Anna's missing. But also there was an instance where Chris was yelling at Anna in the diner and he said he was gonna kill her, and Brian overheard because Brian was lurking in the bathroom like a fucking creep. But here's where I decided, oh my god, so none of this so far it's only been orange and green. I was like, oh my god, we need another color. So here we have for our first blue tag, and it is just about Chris's parents and how they died. Their names were and Margaret. So I'm not gonna add them as characters because this is like really their only mention of their names. And it's just about how they died on, a boating accident, and that's how we find out that like Richard's parents also died on said boating accident. And Richard's parents' names were Richard and something else. Well, I don't know what his mom's name was. It was boring. So I didn't pay attention. Here's where they're all chit-chatting about this whole like, oh my God, you're adopted, I'm adopted, and oh my God, we none of us have parents. It's like really weird. But they're talking, and Chris lied, and he said he had siblings before. I don't know why, as Chris Johnson, he has siblings, but when he's like being Chris Glennon, he's like, actually an only child, and I was adopted. So we found out he did not have a sister. He just lied about this entire time. Like, why did you lie about having a sister? Like, what benefit did that have to the story or to your credibility, sir? Well, okay, so he has no parents. He has no siblings. They find out, he's adopted, and that's pretty much all it is that he's adopted. And they find out Chris is like adopted quite a bit older than normal. Like his birth parents passed away when he was like he wasn't a young kid, like a baby or like a toddler or anything. He was a little bit older, like in elementary school, which they keep talking about how like that's so rare to get adopted then. I don't know. If I was gonna adopt a kid, I think I would prefer to adopt an older kid because like they don't get like the love, so like why not? You know? But of course we have to meet another new character. Homeboy over here, we got Earthbound Spirits. Her name is Emily Peterson. She's just a prospect, okay? Like they're talking about like, oh, she's decided to talk to her sister and now she doesn't want to give us all her monies. Because Earthbound Spirit says the money doesn't matter, but like the money matters because they like want everyone's estate for some reason. I don't know what they're doing with everyone's estate essentially, but we're talking about Richard and Bobby, good old Bobby. We find out they have the same birthday. Weird, suspicious. Now Patricia and Richard are starting to put two and two together, like, yes. And Richard knows he's now adopted at age 6. He didn't originally know he was adopted because his adoptive parents like brainwashed him and told him that everything he thought before, the age of 6 that he like had memories of, they told him he just had a very overactive imagination and all of it was dreams and stuff, and so that it wasn't real because nothing like gaslighting your child, you know? So then we have another blue tab. This unnamed couple, so we're not gonna talk about the characters' names, are walking along the beach. They're on vacation apparently in Frederickport. And their dog is walking up ahead of them. And their dog finds a dead body on the beach. Just dead body on the beach. But they can't tell who it is because her face is very bashed in because she took a tumble down the cliffs. Everyone apparently falls off cliffs around here. I don't know. It sounds like I should not go to Oregon and go near cliffs because it sounds like people fall off of them on a regular basis. So, while that's all happening, Richard and Patricia have put two and two together and have realized they are long-lost siblings, and that, oh my God, we are siblings, So they've put that all together, and like they reveal all of that. However, we finally get to our first purple tab, and if you guys remember what purple is after all this time, it means we meet a new ghost. So we're gonna put this in a shit show going on over here. By the way, I didn't mention Billy Bob Wayne has made an appearance in this book. He made an appearance at the Christmas Eve gala open house, whatever we want to say. But we meet our ghostie. Maybe we'll make ghost a separate topic. I'll add a central theme, I think is what they're called. Yes. These are just ghosts. These are just ghosts that show up, and we're gonna put them. Oh no, not that. Oh no, where did you go, ghosties? Okay, where's our side characters? Come with me, ghost. We're headed over this way. This isn't at all looking like a shit show. Are there any of these ghosts? No, I don't think so. So, we meet a lovely ghost. Where's her name? Beatrice Montgomery. Did I spell that right? Yep, I did. And she was the dead woman on the beach. That's really all we have. She's just that dead woman we found on the beach. So we know it's not Anna. So we know that's not Anna. However, Beatrice reveals something. She said she was following the cop around, and the cop she was following around was Chief McDonald. And he was at home prior to coming to see Danielle to tell her about, oh, hey, we found a dead body. The description kind of matches your MIA guest. One of his sons yelled at Beatrice and threw a toy truck at her. So this is where we find out that maybe one of the chief's sons, he has two of them, can see ghosts as well. So, that might be a development coming up.
And here we go. Here's another side character. We might need this. Who knows in this book? Herbert is Beatrice, the ghost husband. I like how that's like coming up with stuff for me. We might need to know that. And we find out what happened with Beatrice. Turns out Herbert and her were in a motorhome, a rented motorhome, traveling up and down the coast. And they got into some stupid fight, okay? And he decided to bash her upside the head and then push her down some cliffs. And then waits 3 days to report her missing. And it's like casually like, oh yeah, because we'd all be casually missing in our nightgown for 3 days. You're right, that's normal behavior. So pretty sure that man's getting arrested. It was not revealed, but we're gonna assume he gets arrested. So now we're at the police station because Danny has to relay this information about Beatrice, to the chief. And we find out Marcia. If you remember Marcia from the last book, Marcia's a bitch and almost let Danny and Lily die. She gets fired from the police department. We find out she's been fired for a few weeks now. Maybe the whole, not relaying messages and people almost dying, maybe that got her fired. But, we find out that bitch is fired. So I just thought that was a nice tidbit of information to throw in there. Back to our side characters, though. Because why not at this point? This doesn't at all look like a shit show, right, guys? This is me cleaning this up a little bit too. We meet another guy. His name is Jason Baker, and he runs some kind of diner. We don't know what diner, but he runs some kind of diner in town, and he's a friend of Adam's, okay? And that's really all we speak to Jason very briefly. He's getting some security cameras set up in his diner for some reason. And here, so Richard, homeboy Richard that we've been talking about, meets up with Cleve Montague. Cleve has ordered him a Pepsi. Apparently, Richard likes Pepsi a lot. And so they're drinking it, and oh my gosh, they're talking about how Richard is going to change his will. He's no longer going to leave stuff to earthbound spirits. He's going to leave stuff to his long lost sister, Patricia. But then he starts to get a real bad headache. So he's like, I'm gonna have to cut this meeting short. But like, I'm glad you understand, Cleve. Because Cleve seems to be very understanding about this. He's like, oh yeah, not that. He's like, I'm not gonna be able to change the will till like after the holidays, because it's like right after Christmas before New Year's. And he's like, oh, highly doubt anything's gonna happen to you in the next few days, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay, so homeboy Richard is having a real bad headache, and he's trying to drive home. And where's he driving past? Pilgrim's Point. Reminder, Pilgrim's Point is the place where everyone dies off the cliffs. Apparently, it's very dangerous, and we should really quarantine this area off. But we don't. However, Darlene! Darlene is a ghost. Where's Darlene at? Dude, where we put Darlene? Oh, here Darlene is. Okay, well, we know she died. Anyways, she, helped wreck a car and killed someone who helped kill her. And so now she's stuck at Pilgrim's Point for an undeterminable amount of time. She's being punished for this. But she decides to help write something in the universe, and she saves Richard. His car is plummeting toward the cliff because he's passed out now at the wheel because he was drugged. And she pulls him from the car in the nick of time and saves his life. So now oh my gosh, I almost lost my spot. Now he's at the hospital, and Adam is the one who came across him, like the wreckage, because Adam felt weird about what Cleve did because he like saw on the security camera that he was helping Jason set up that Cleve put some weird white mysterious powder into the Pepsi and then proceeded to spill the Pepsi after Richard left. And so he had the foresight to grab it, and he's like, I'm gonna bring this with me. And it's a good thing he did because that's how we find out that Richard was poisoned. Richard was poisoned by Cleve. And then we meet this other person, and then Peter Morris shows up because he's like, I am Richard's spiritual guide. And they're like, yeah, homeboy, you can't see him right now because Earthbound Spirits is like under investigation for this right now. So, homeboy, you can't. However, we find out who the hell called Peter about Richard being in the hospital. And we find out it's this girl named Cora that I typed in here. Cora breaks HIPAA violations, okay? Cora should not be calling some random guy about this. But she did, so I hope she loses her nursing license. She works at the hospital. I guess I don't know she's a nurse. Works at hospital. So she's over here breaking HIPAA violations. So a few days later, everyone is gone. It's just Danny at the house. Well, not everyone's gone. Everyone's not awake yet. Danny is
She's just having a nice slow start to her morning. She walks into the kitchen. Who the hell does she see? Cleve. Cleve Montague's in her kitchen. And he's angry. He's angry. You know why? Because Peter fucking lied to him. Do you know what Peter lied about, guys? Peter lied about the afterlife. Our bodies are not earthbound into these bodies, and then we get to go to a higher plane of whatever the fuck it is that Peter's preaching in his weird cult. When you die, and now your spirit is still, you're just gonna go to like hell or like this lingering on earth thing they're doing or heaven or those are our options. It's not whatever the hell Peter was preaching. I don't even know what the hell this man is preaching. It's a cult. um Fucking Cleve is angry. Peter lied to him. Peter told him it was time to go home, and what that apparently means is go unalive yourself. So Cleve unalived himself because Peter said to. Cult, guys, cult. However, Cleve then reveals to Danny he did it all. He drugged Richard. He's also the reason behind Clarence's death. Where's Clarence at on where's homeboy Clarence on here? He should be under this. He should be under the, oh, yeah, I already did. He also unalived Clarence and staged it as well. So that's nice how they did that in the prison. I don't know how that works. But he's chill. He leaves after that. He's like, I just wanted you to know. And then he leaves. I'm like, oh, okay. Weird, but okay. Um, so everyone is awoken now, and they're all reminiscing about how, having a good time. Patricia had bought this box of pictures with her because she didn't want to lose it. It has all of what's like left of her mother from when she passed away when she was very young. And inside of it are pictures, and what do you know? Richard, Bobby over here is Richard. They have pictures and they're just reminiscent of this. Jessica has the book that's like labeled like Mom and Dad's Wedding. So her grandmother and grandfather. And she goes, "Oh, look, it's Anna." Anna who's been MIA that we can't find and we don't know where the hell what happened to her. They're just like, "Oh, maybe she just like left or something." Oh no, it's Anna. And they look at the picture, and Danny can tell looking at the picture, yeah, that is Anna. And Chris is just over there sitting there like real smug, like, isn't that interesting? Because we find out that Chris can see spirits and he's just not been saying anything this entire time. And then we find out that Anna was actually a spirit this whole time, and Chris knew that Anna was Patricia and Richard's mom, and that she just wanted her children reunited. And the question is, how did Anna like have a body that everyone could see and like hear and like feel? Christmas magic is the answer. Christmas magic is the answer. We don't really have an answer. It's just Christmas magic, guys. We're gonna get into our little romance subplot here at chapter 39. It is pretty much just chapter 39. I mean, a little bit chapter 40, but So it's chapter 39, and it is now New Year's Eve, and the clock has struck midnight, so it is now officially 2015. So first, before we get into this romance subplot, we gotta go down here, and we gotta add another one of these bad boys, and it is December 2014, and that goes right after that, and there's this little side bit. Ghosts who came for Christmas. Isn't this quite the evolution? 6 books in, and we've basically accomplished a little over half a year. Anyways, Christmas or New Year's Eve, Chris goes in to kiss Danny on the cheek because that's what he did with Patricia. Homeboy straight up kisses Danny on the mouth. Like she thought he was going in for like a little cheek kiss, but he like turned at the last second and full on kisses her. Okay, not like raunchy kisses, but he kisses her. And Walt is upset by this because, well, why wouldn't Walt be obsessed by this? Danny, clueless as ever, is like, but why would he be like that? And Chris just looks at her and go, well, because they're talking about the Christmas magic, okay? And Walt's like, why can't I do that? Why can't I possess a real body? And then he storms off, like Walt would do. And she's like, why would he want a real body like that? Blah, blah, blah. And Chris goes, for you, of course. Me? he may be a ghost, Danielle, but I think he's in love with you. So now we have this two different interests. You know, Joe, I'll say, well, Joe's an asshole for the whole murder thing, right? Like arresting Danny for murder. So now we have two contenders, Chris and Walt. Problem is, Walt is a ghost. He's a ghost. It's the big problem. This isn't gonna work. How is this gonna work? He's a he's a ghost. Well, we have one less character to learn. We find out homeboy, Chief, his one son is named Evan, and he's the one who can see ghosts. And the chief is now trying to enlist Danny's help with navigating the chief having a son who can see spirits. He's like, I don't know what to do for the kid. Like, how do I teach him to be well adjusted in life? And Danny agrees to help. So we get one more little romance tidbit. Walt's like, Danny, I haven't given you your Christmas gift yet. And that's all he says. And that night, Danny goes to sleep and she has this dream. It's actually very, very romantic. Walt sets up a Christmas party for Danny at her childhood home with her parents and her cousin Cheryl that died back in book two. And they all have this beautiful, lovely little Christmas together. It's so cute. It's so cute. I just like, you know what? That's a little cute thing. Like, Walt, you're getting points for it. Like again, I don't know how this whole thing is gonna work with like, Walt, being, Walt and the fact that he like doesn't have a body anymore. But that's the end. So that's accomplished book two. I hope I didn't talk for too long. I think I talked for like 40 minutes. I talked for way too long. This is gonna be such a joy to edit, like when it's 2 hours of raw footage. But I hope you guys enjoyed the next three books in the series and that we've delved further into this universe. Um, episode three. My goal is going to be to read one of these a month. So my goal is to get an episode out roughly every 3 months. So we'll see. My goal for sure is to read the next book in February because it is the ghost who came for Valentine's Day, I think is what it says. I think that's the next one. It's at the end of the book. One sec. Not that one. The Ghost of Valentine Past. So I would like to read that in February. So March, April. Hopefully we get another one out end of April, early May. I'll get another episode out. I just gotta like sit down and read one of these a month is what I gotta do. But thank you for coming on this journey with me, and I'll see you next time.